Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting of the City Council as we do the people's work. At this time, would you please stand for the invocation that will be given by Councilman Bishop Curtis Edmonds, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Edmonds.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and all that you have allowed us to see and participate in. We ask that as we come together to discuss and talk about the business of the city, we pray, dear God, that you will give us good hearing, good minds, good discussion, that when we leave here, we'll leave satisfied and pleased with the direction that we're going. Bless our mayor and all my colleagues on council and all those citizens that come to share. We give you praise and glory for the day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Members of City Council, would you please indicate your presence electronically?
7 members of City Council are present.
Okay. Members of City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of May 28th, 2013, and a regular meeting of May 28, 2013. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. The minutes are adopted 7-0.
Okay, very good. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. 13-243, presentation of special lapel pins to newly appointed board and commission members. If the following would join the vice mayor at the sergeant at arms desk. With the library board, we have Ms. Lois Radford. And with the Tidewater Community College Board, we have Dr. Laura Suggs.
First, can y'all hear me? Mm-hmm. Right. First, on behalf of the mayor and the city council, I want to congratulate you on your appointment and thank you all for being willing to serve and give your time and efforts to the city. The decisions that you all are going to make on the city is going to help us do our job. We couldn't do it without you. So we'll say thank you. Can you give me a round of applause?
Absolutely.
And now to all of you out there, we need some people to join us. we have many more vacancies, and later on in the program, we're going to let Mr. Moody go over them after we do this. So go online, look at the application, or call the clerk's office, and she'll let you know what the vacancies are, and then maybe we can do doing this for you in a month or two. Would you all like to say a few words?
Please.
Well, I would like to say I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll do the best to represent the city of Portsmouth. And again, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I hadn't planned on saying anything, but I appreciate the opportunity also, and I'm looking forward to working on the library board with Todd Elliott and the rest of the library staff.
Thank you for your vote.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Okay. Yeah, let's do that now. Can we hit the vacancy now since we're hot on that subject?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Thank you.
As we sit here tonight, we need, and we're really looking for, we need some ladies to serve on boards and commissions, particularly minorities. These are some of the vacancies that we have, as we say here tonight: Community Policy and Management Team, Historic Preservation Commission. Now, we need a representative from the Port Norfolk area and from Old Town. Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission, extremely important commission. We need, we're looking for, need some female representation on that particular board, and also need a, looking for a minority female. And Social Services Advisory Commission. We got 2 vacancies on that. And also Supplemental Retirement Board. We've got that on hold because we're looking for 2 folks. And the Wetlands Board also. So that's just some of them. Now you can go to our city's website and you can see these vacancies and other upcoming vacancies. Good thing about it, you can also fill out an application online, or you can call our clerk's office, and they'll assist you in getting an application to you. But we definitely need some volunteers. It's a lot of fun. You get to work with a lot of interesting people, and you have some input on what our city is going to look like in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your time, it will be 5 minutes. You will notice a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you please conclude your remarks at that time. 13, public hearing, 13-244, public hearing on a proposed Virginia Enterprise Zone designation application to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. Members of council, I have no registered speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the proposed Virginia Enterprise Zone designation application to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on this public hearing. Members of council, this public hearing is closed. 13-245, public hearing on a use permit applications. Item A, UP 1304, Long Point subdivision. Sharita Copeland Jenkins requests a use permit for a family child daycare home at 5 Admiral Court for 12 children aged 6 weeks old to 12 years of age. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends low to medium density single-family residential development, vision principle, lifelong learning community, and neighborhood and sense of community. Electronic roll call, and I have speakers.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Oh, good. My name is Stacy Porter, and I'm a senior planner with the Planning Department. And I will provide an overview of the applicant's request for a family child daycare home known as Home Away from Home, located at 5 Admiral Court. According to the Virginia Department of Social Services, this facility has been in operation since 2008. The applicant recently obtained a business license for a home-based business to care for up to 5 children at 5 Admiral Court, just after the May 7, 2013 Planning Commission public hearing. The applicant is seeking the use permit to care for up to 12 children. The applicant's property is located in Churchland in the Long Point subdivision. The property is zoned general residential conditional, is approximately 0.231 acres in size, and contains a 2,200 square foot 2-story residence. This is the submitted site plan. Internal childcare activities currently take place in a renovated 400 square foot room that was formerly a 2-car garage. I've highlighted this area in blue on the plan. I have provided a photo of the exterior garage space to the right on this slide. The rear yard is fenced with a 6-foot-high privacy fence. This area is approximately 4,000 square feet in size and is used for the Family Child Daycare Home's outdoor play area. The play area contains playground equipment. According to Portsmouth City Code 40-40.1-5.1, off-street parking, loading, and circulation, the parking requirement for a family child daycare home is 3 spaces, plus 1 for every staff member. The applicant's submittal indicates that the facility is staffed by herself and 1 part-time individual. Therefore, the applicant must provide 5 off-street parking spaces. According to engineering staff, the driveway highlighted in blue on this slide can accommodate up to 4 stacked, standard size 9 by 18 parking spaces. 1 additional parking space would still be needed. Planning staff evaluated the applicant's alternative parking request, which is referenced in Portsmouth City Code Section 40.1-J4, to allow the applicant to meet the parking requirement using 1 on-street parking space. Planning staff found that the applicant's request did not meet the criterion that the property must be located in a mixed-use area. The property is residentially zoned and fully surrounded by residentially zoned properties. Therefore, on-street parking cannot be approved for this location. Only 4 code-compliant parking spaces exist for this site. To the north and east, south and west, the property is fully surrounded by the Long Point neighborhood, of which is zoned general residential conditional and is characterized by single-family development. Planning staff recommends the denial of the use permit, as the applicant's site does not provide the city code required 5 off-street parking spaces. Planning Commission concurred with the staff's recommendation and voted 6-1 to deny the applicant's use permit request. As in all cases where staff recommends the denial of an application, we have included a list of proposed conditions in the staff report should City Council choose to approve the applicant's request for the use permit. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Our first speaker is Ms. Sharita Jenkins.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharita Jenkins. I am the owner of Home Away from Home Family Daycare. I probably won't be 5 minutes because I'm not used to speaking to an audience of adults. I'm used to speaking with little people. But anyways, when I started my daycare home several years ago, I stepped out on faith. I just trusted and believed that God would carry me and He would provide and He would give me the children, to enter in and out of my home. I never advertised. I've always been a daycare home where the parents have found me through word of mouth. I believe that, as I tell the parents all the time, that every journey begins with one small single step. And my goal is to nurture these children with me for the next 4 years, because normally when they leave me, they go to either pre-K or kindergarten. And my goal is to, when they leave me, they are fully prepared for the outside world. I don't know what's going to happen this evening, but I just want to say that I do thank you all for listening to me, and whatever decision you make, I will trust that it was God's decision. So I have nothing more to say.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Our next speaker is Mr. Ray King. Okay, I had you for B. We'll put you for, I had you for A. We'll put you for B. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 1304. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 1304.
Hello, my name is Devonette Thomas, and my child goes to Miss Sharita Jenkins Daycare. Before I had my 3-year-old, I'm the mother of 4. I have a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So you can only imagine how precious that little 3-year-old is to myself and my husband. And I'll tell you, we went on a long search, my husband and I, to find the daycare that we would entrust our child with. One of the things that Miss Jenkins did not tell you is that she's raised 3 boys on her own using the income from this private business. Her husband passed when her children were very young. So this is a business that has sustained itself for many years. And I would like to just say that my child has been safe, has been taught. As a matter of fact, if you go out and research, which unfortunately you don't have time to do, I know, because you're going to be making a decision about this soon, but she's the most affordable daycare in Portsmouth. I called over 20 daycares, and she was the most affordable daycare, and not only the most affordable, but to me provided the best care, because I didn't start with her, okay? My children went to more expensive daycares first, and I'm telling you that I think it's very important, and she really does a lot for the children, and it's a blessing to be able to leave your child and feel like they're at a home away from home. And just as a parent, I wanted you to understand that she's providing quality care. It's a safe place, and it's a wonderful place. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Cherry?
Well, Mayor, if no one, I'll make a motion, but if somebody had a comment, I'll wait.
Okay. There are no other comments, sir?
Okay. I'm going to comment on the motion. Mayor, we're talking about, to my colleagues, denying this for a half a parking space, really, because you got a part-time employee. So, and I'm looking in the staff report, and it says, from the planning department actually, that there's adequate on-street or structural parking exists within 500 feet of the primary interest of the development, and that the immediate vicinity is entitled residential zone, but therefore it doesn't meet the criteria because it doesn't have 5 parking spaces. And I don't know about the engineering standards, but you know, I rode by the house, put my relatively big car in that driveway. So so I want to make a motion that we not deny this for half a parking space, and that we approve Ms. Sharita Copeland Jenkins' request for use permit for a family child care center at 5 Admiral Court for 12 people, or 12 children rather, aged 6 years to 12 years old.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second to approve this use permit.
Approved it.
And you're
Okay.
gonna
So
be
you're
voting?
running this, or,
Electronic.
okay, all right. Yes, ma'am.
This item is approved 7-0. UP 13-05 Park View. Verizon Wireless requests a use permit to co-locate a telecommunication antenna and supporting ground equipment on an existing 287-foot tall tower located at 1318 Spratley Street. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends commercial development. Vision principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have a speaker.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my name is John Hartley, Planning Administrator in the City Planning Department. The next item on your agenda is a request for a use permit to co-locate telecommunications antennas on an existing tower at 1318 Spratley Street and construct a new equipment shelter adjacent to the existing building. Under the zoning ordinance, co-locating cell equipment on an existing tower or building is allowed by right in all of the zoning districts, with the exception of the WF or waterfront district where a use permit is required, which is the case in this application. As you can see from the photo on the left, the tower already exists on the site, along with existing equipment sheds and satellite dishes. On the right is the zoning map for the area. This site is presently zoned waterfront or WF, as is the marina to the north. The surrounding area is zoned UR urban residential. This is an aerial photo of the site in question, which is highlighted in yellow. Again, to the north is the marina, with residential uses to the east, west, and south. Most of those residences are single-family residences, although there are a few 2- and 3-family residences in the surrounding neighborhoods. This is a slightly different aerial perspective, and the red star designates the location of the tower site. This is a close-up of that, and again, you can see the tower. And the red star in this case is where the equipment shelter would be, directly adjacent to the building. This is a ground view of the site, and you can see it's already fairly well developed with satellite dishes and the existing tower. You can also see the marina in the background. This is looking east on Spratley Street, and across the road from this property are a number of single-family residences. And then looking to your west, you have a similar situation where there are predominantly single-family residences. And then finally, the last picture is a slide of the property itself and where the equipment shelter would be located, which again is where the red star is. And this is all part of Verizon Wireless's effort to beef up the telecommunications or cellular network that they have in the downtown area. The Planning Commission considered this request at their meeting on May 7th and recommended approval 7-0 with the conditions that are suggested in the staff report. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions? And I should add that Ray King is here with LeClaire Ryan on behalf of the applicant, if you have questions of the applicant.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our speaker is Mr. Ray King.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you. I think Mr. Hartley covered everything adequately. I'm Ray King, representing Verizon Wireless. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to entertain them. Otherwise, I'll let you get on to your business.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-13-05. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP-13-05.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and City Attorney. My name is Tony Goodwin. Of course, I reside in Parkview. I did not anticipate to speak tonight, but remember seeing this on the agenda. Very informal come up to speak to you tonight, specifically about this request of the use permit at the Verizon Wireless, or at least this tower at Spratley Street. Living in the neighborhood and can see the tower basically from our side yard, front yard, backyard. It's approximately probably 25 feet tall. It was about 4 weeks ago I realized after a nice good windstorm there was this strange object sitting in the front yard of one of Dan Aston's properties on Linden Avenue. And it was strange enough to realize, well, who would have something about the size of about 5 feet in diameter that looks like a cereal bowl? And come to find out with a little bit more inspection, it was actually the cover of a microwave dish that had blown across the neighborhood about 5 streets and landing in his front yard. And this thing was, like I said, about 5 feet in diameter and probably about 1.5 feet deep. And of course the trash man come and picked it up, but no report was really made because it wasn't discovered until really after you looked at it closely that it was actually a piece of equipment that blew off the top of that tower. So my request at this point is to, of course, allow the Verizon to improve the services and put their equipment there, but only under conditions that the property owner of that tower which I understand is someone other than Channel 3 who owns the station, but actually goes out and cleans up the old equipment that's no longer used. The satellite dishes on the ground are all satellite dishes from the old 700 Club days and Channel 27 days, and none of that equipment is used on the ground. It's unsightly, first of all, but what's most importantly, what's up on that tower that's not used needs to come down before it really does some damage to someone or someone's home in that area. Because again, there's a lot of equipment down there where you can physically look at the bottom of the satellite dishes. Wires are just hanging out, poles are rusted, and it just really, I think with giving this approval, and I'm not against this approval at all, but let's get the old stuff that's no longer used and that's dangerous out of there along with this program, this project.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the speaker for bringing that to our attention. I guess my question to staff is, what can we do to mandate that unsightly used electronic equipment be removed?
We'll check it out, Mr. Moody.
And can we make approval contingent upon that?
I'll defer to both Fred and George.
Mayor?
Yes,
Vice
sir.
Mayor? Councilman Moody, I believe if you wish, you could put an additional condition on that would require the removal of all unused equipment
Yeah.
as part of your approval tonight, and then in 2 weeks for the final approval on that.
So moved. Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay. Our public hearing is now closed.
And we're going to make
Members of
those
council, we have a motion and a second, and you will be voting electronically.
with the amendments.
With the amendments.
Okay,
yes.
all right, very good.
This item is approved 7-0 with the amendments. Okay. Unfinished business, 13-221 Code Amendment. Item A, ordinance granting the request of the City of Portsmouth to amend Section 40.1-4.4 of the City of Portsmouth zoning ordinance to allow the keeping of a limited number of chickens as an accessory use to a detached single-family residence under certain conditions and requirements. CA 13-01, first reading vote, 6-0 approved. Vision, principal, change, and new directions. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers. Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. Members of City Council, management requests withdrawal of items number 13-113 through 117. At this time, we're in need of a motion. Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically to withdraw items 13-113 through 117. This withdrawal is approved 7-0. City Manager's Report, 13-246, adoption of an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the City Code to authorize the city manager or his designee to establish rules and regulations for the operation of city-owned or city-operated piers, wharves, docks, and landings. Vision, principle, quality of life, and efficient responsive government. Electronic roll call, and I have a registered speaker, Mr. Mark Godaldik-Yatrovsky.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow citizens. It will probably not come as a shock to you that I have concerns whenever a single member of a governmental entity is responsible for making regulations and rules that affect the city as a whole. I don't understand the need for this change. I don't understand why council why council cannot codify any necessary rules or regulations for operation of piers and docks within the city. This is not one of those dynamic situations This is not one of those dynamic situations that are likely to evolve quickly and require an immediate response. These are not emergency issues. This is routine, everyday operation. And those kinds of rules, in my experience and in governmental theory, are best handled by legislatures, which is to say by the city council. So I am opposed to this proceeding for the code to be amended, and instead propose that council take up the matter, review whatever the existing rules and regulations there are, and go through the process of developing a revised list as needed. That would, of course, involve a public input process when the draft rules are available, and the opportunity for my fellow citizens and myself to add or subtract as might be indicated from that list. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of council, there are no additional speakers on this item.
Let me ask, city managers, is there any reason why we can't entertain what the speaker just mentioned here? I mean, some of those things are very valid.
I don't totally disagree with Mark, but this really relates to two primary areas, and that's North Landing and the High Street Landing. We want to encourage boats to tie up there. Most of that traffic is both national and international. Very few local boaters are tying up. The issue is when a boat ties up there and spends, let's say, a week, it does not have the capacity to carry all the inboard sanitary capacity necessary to sustain that boat staying there a week. There's a good chance that the sewage is going to be pumped overboard. We need to experiment with what rule works the best. Is it one night stay? Is it 2 night stay? We have 2 marinas north and south of the 2 landings. We do not want to be in competition with those because they take overnighters. But for example, a 3-night stay with a certificate of proof that the boater went to one of the local marinas to have the sewage pumped out. These are simple rules for the quality of the river. This is a very green type ordinance. And so we need to have the flexibility to find out what works. We're in the process of doing, for the last couple of months, doing a census of the number of boats that tie up overnight and where they're from. And very few are from the city of Portsmouth. They're from places like Australia. There was actually a boat there from Montana, from Canada, from Sweden. And we want to make sure that they first enjoy Portsmouth, but they don't pollute our waters.
Thank you. Any other discussion there? Okay, Madam Clerk?
We're in need of a motion, sir.
Move adopt. Second? Third?
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically to approve this item.
Okay.
This item is adopted 7-0. 13-247, adoption of a resolution authorizing the transfer of $753,288 within the FY 12-13 General Fund operating budget to address additional expenditures for Hampton Roads Transit, utility charges, and the city manager's office. Members of council, management has requested that this item be deferred to your June 25th regular city council meeting.
Okay.
I'm in need of a motion.
Okay.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically to defer this item to your June 25th city council meeting.
Okay.
This item is adopted 7-0. (13-248), adoption of a resolution authorizing an application for the designation by the Commonwealth of Virginia of a second Virginia Enterprise Zone to be located in the city of Portsmouth pursuant to the Virginia Enterprise Zone Grant Act. Vision Principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move. Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 13-249, adoption of a resolution expressing the concurrence of the City Council of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia with the inducement resolution adopted by the Economic Development Authority of Henrico County, Virginia, and approving the issuance of revenue bonds for the benefit of Maryview Hospital and Bon Secours Health Systems, Inc. Vision Principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers. Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically.
Ms. Simmons?
This item is adopted 7-0. New business 13-250, boards and commissions. Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, Mayor, members of council. We have one appointment to consider tonight, and that's for Community Criminal Justice Board. And that's a recommendation from the Personnel Committee is Edwin Gonzalo, who is also a magistrate.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 13-251, items submitted by council members. The first item is adoption of a resolution observing the 50th anniversary of the death of Medgar Wiley Evers, who was slain in the pursuit of equal rights for all Americans. Electronic roll call, and I have a registered speaker, Mr. Mark Godoldik-Yutrovsky.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow citizens. Tomorrow marks the 50th anniversary, or anniversary seems like too happy a word for such an awful event in our history. The assassination of a leader, of somebody who is working to advance the cause of human rights in our country. And the fact that there has come to be a recognition in his home state of Mississippi, even at this late date, of his significance is a sign that we are moving in the right direction in this country. But 50 years is a very long time for those kinds of recognitions to take hold. And as somebody who was 14 at the time of this event, and someone who would get a similar shock, perhaps a greater shock, only 6 months later when our president, John F. Kennedy, was assassinated in Dallas. It brings home the fact that there are issues in this country that elicit inappropriate responses from people who feel themselves disenfranchised in one way or another, or lack the ability to carry on a dialogue in public in a civil way. This is something that all political leaders should be ever mindful of. Because if you are to call yourselves leaders, it is incumbent upon you to model the kind of behavior that we ask our citizens to engage in. And that is to respect other points of view, even when they are disagreeable to us, and to learn how to dialogue with each other on difficult issues without being disagreeable to each other. That's a lesson I learned when I was in my teens. I lived next door to people whose views were very different from ours. They were extremely conservative. They were religious in a fundamentalist way. We believed in different things, both politically and religiously, and yet, those folks were some of the best neighbors I have ever had. They would look out for us when we were away on extended vacation trips in the summer. They would watch over our property as though it were theirs, and we would return the favor. And so it's important for us to remember that what unites us as neighbors, as fellow residents of this city and this state and this country, are greater than what divides us. It's a big, cruel world out there, and we have each other to rely on if we treat each other as neighbors, if we treat each other with respect, and if we follow the golden rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for those comments, Mr. Godal-Dutrovsky. I think it's equally important to note, along with being known as a civil rights leader who was unfortunately gunned down pursuing a right cause that set this country on the right path. He was also a soldier who served his country in the Second World War, both in France and in Germany. He was, might say that he was all of his adult life he was fighting for this country, unfortunately having to fight to have his own rights and own dignity once he got back to American soil. And he gave his all, unfortunately, in this country, not abroad. But thank you, Mayor.
Well done. Well said, sir. All right. Madam Clerk?
We have no additional speakers. We're in need of a motion.
Move for adoption.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically.
Okay.
This item is adopted 7-0.
Madam Clerk, if we could, we've got some members here of the Portsmouth chapter of the NAACP who were very instrumental in requesting this. And if you would, could you please read the resolution? I want to ask Ms. Carroll and who others, if you would, at least come up front and thank you for everything that you do in our community. You got some young blood. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, please.
A resolution observing the 50th anniversary of the death of Medgar Wiley Evers, who was slain in the pursuit of equal rights for all Americans. Whereas Medgar Wiley Evers was born on July 2nd, 1925 in Decatur, Mississippi. And whereas, as a member of the United States Army during World War II, Medgar Evers fought in France and Germany from 1943 to 1945, returning after the war to attend Alcorn College, now Alcorn University. And whereas, upon returning to Mississippi from fighting for his country, he fought against inequality, segregation, and the treatment of African Americans as second-class citizens. And whereas Medgar Evers was an intrepid and outspoken proponent of civil rights, and while working as an insurance sales agent, was recruited to become the first field secretary in Mississippi for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, in 1954. And whereas he established the Mississippi State NAACP office in Jackson, and whereas the Mississippi NAACP field secretary, he traveled across the state soliciting the NAACP memberships and challenging this country to live up to its creed that all men are created equal. And whereas Medgar Evers' basic quest for civil freedom garnered hatred from staunch racists and segregationists such as the Ku Klux Klan, the White Citizens Council, and the Mississippi State Sovereignty Commission, while prompting praise, admiration, and respect from others around the nation. And whereas on June 12, 1963, Medgar Evers was shot to death in the driveway of his home by an avid racist, sparking national outrage and prompting increased support for passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the hallmark legislation of the Civil Rights Movement. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, that on this 50th anniversary of the murder of Medgar Wiley Evers, that it salutes the life and ultimate sacrifice paid by Medgar Evers in the pursuit of equal rights for all Americans, regardless of color. Be it therefore resolved that the City Council affirms its commitment to the elimination of race-based discrimination and to political, educational, social, and economic equality for all persons. Be it further resolved that the city clerk be, and she is hereby, directed to send a copy of the foregoing resolution to the Portsmouth branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and it is adopted by the City Council of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, at its meeting held on June 11, 2013.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And Ms. Carroll, if this time, would you like to say anything?
I would just like to thank you for the approval.
You can go to the mic if you would. Okay.
For the ones that do not know me, I am Pat Carroll, the membership chairperson for the Portsmouth NAACP, and I'm always soliciting your membership. So if you're not a member, I will gladly, anytime, take your funds for that. It's only $30 a year for a regular membership and $75 for 10 years for a life membership. That might sound like a lot, but it goes by fast, as you know, the years. But I also have with me the youth president, which was instrumental in our conference call in initiating this action, that is Tajon Gray.
Very good,
And also
Tajon.
Lionel Wiggins is our assistant secretary for the youth branch.
Okay, thank you and welcome. Good job, young man. All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've got a couple of items. The first item is, and I failed to mention it at our last council meeting, but each year WHRO recognizes people within our community. It's a regional award, and they call it Impact Awards, and they have different categories. And about 3 weeks ago, Rear Admiral William Hayden, U.S. Navy retired, was recognized as an unsung hero. And for y'all that don't know who Admiral Bill Hayden is, he is the founder of Starbase Victory right here in Portsmouth, Virginia. And Starbase Victory is a program that's roughly about 10 years old and has done enormous help with introducing STEM and STEM principles to our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade children. Every one of our kids go through that program, and Admiral Hayden was recognized by WHRO, and I was honored to introduce him at the ceremony and the award ceremony. And I just want to say to Admiral Hayden, a young fella from Virginia Beach that came to Portsmouth, and actually I see someone out there with a Starbase shirt on. How fitting. Admiral Hayden brought that program here 10 years ago, and that program runs mainly on contributions by small businesses, and the city contributes some in the partnership, but it's mostly by businesses making contributions to that program. Each one of those kids come in, and that program is right at about a week long, and each one gets a T-shirt. They all have to develop a call sign. So everybody in there, it's I think Goose and Maverick and some of those go first, and then you get down to some of the less popular ones. But Admiral Hayden truly deserves that, and we in the city of Portsmouth, and I know the school system, are really grateful for what him and his wife have done with that program, and to all of the board members and to all of the corporations that pledge and give money to that program. I want to say thank you. It was truly a proud honor for him, and I want to thank WHRO and Dominion Power for sponsoring that event and recognizing people like that within our community. There were about 6 awards that were given, and again, they were all regional, and again, Starbase Victory was touted, and the Portsmouth school system was touted amongst this region about 3 weeks ago, and again, it makes you feel proud that people come in and work and join up and partner with our schools and our kids to make things like that possible. And because of that, and I don't want to go too long on this, but because of what the Admiral brought here, we now have a STEM program that has reached from elementary to junior high and including our high school. And from that, the robotics program was introduced, and a number of other things were introduced. And I think you hear Miss Linda Ridenauer normally would come up and give updates and different things about the school, and talked about those kids that were involved in a world competition in Anaheim, California this year. We had 2 teams that went last year. So it's just amazing what has spun from the introduction of Starbase here and what it has meant to our kids in the school system. So Admiral Hayden, I want to say to you and your lovely wife, thank you for all that you do and what you continue to do. He also serves as the executive director of Starbase, and I think his fee is nothing. He takes the money and donates it back into the program, so a true champion. Secondly, speaking of schools, our graduations were last week. We had our 3 high schools graduated. We had nearly 1,000 kids graduated, and I think by my count, and I don't have my numbers here, I left them in the office, about 1/3 of them graduated with honors. And we had roughly about 15 or 20% of those kids are graduating with college credits in our first college program. And if most of you that don't are not aware of that, that is a program, a joint venture that we have with TCC, where our kids get to go over, and I think they can get a maximum of about 30 credits. And for most of you that are paying for kids in college and know what tuition is, that is a real help to be able to have a kid from our school system starting their first year of college already with 30 credits paid for. And again, that's a cooperation with us, the city, the school system, as well as TCC. And outside of our high school graduations, we had elementary graduations that the mayor was fortunate to speak at 2 of those. Actually, one of them was a preschool. I was at Brighton Elementary and Mount Hermon Preschool. And I got to tell you, it was fascinating. Ms. Simmons commented on one of the young ladies that came up and spoke to the mayor, but these kids, 3 and 4 years old, stood up on stage and counted to 100 in Spanish. 100 in Spanish, 3 and 4 year olds. They actually read stories, and I admitted to them when I got up to speak that the mayor couldn't do that, and that I was very impressed with them. But so to Dr. Smith, over at Mount Herman Preschool, and to Miss Walker over at Brighton, and to all of the principals and all of the kids that are graduating this year. We want to say congratulations, and we're extremely proud of all of you. And lastly, okay, Ms. Randall, you want to say something? We're on education. I've got one more point, but I need you in on my education piece. Yes, ma'am.
I'm very happy to chime in because a lot of the things that are going on in our schools, a lot of us don't get the opportunity to get into the schools to see the wonderful job that is going on. And this program that he's mentioning didn't just start.
Right.
It's been an ongoing thing. And many of our students who come through this program have gone on and graduated with honors as a result of the motivation that they receive through the instructions through the STEM program. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, citizens don't get a chance to go into the schools and see what's going on. Take time and visit into your neighborhood schools. It's remarkable what is happening in the preschool programs as well through in the science and the research programs. So sometimes when you have some time, make an appointment and go and visit the schools. I'm sure that many of you have not been in a school to see the children in action in a long time. It's a most rewarding experience. It brings your youth back to you. You can bank on that. Okay,
Thank you very much. Well done, Ms. Randall. And my last point here is last week was also Business Appreciation Week. And we celebrate that throughout the Commonwealth and hopefully throughout the country. And I see our economic director there, Patrick Small, there. And I want you to, sir, please come up to the mic if you would. We had over 100 people to show up, and every week we do this, and this is something we, the city, do, and hopefully each locality does, to say thank you to all of our businesses here, because our business and our business community play a vital role in everything that we're able to do here in the city. And to have all of those people show up, and just for us as a city to be able to say thank you on behalf of all of our departments and everyone that interface and interact with them. The timing might have been a little off. I think that was the same day that the taxes were due. We didn't dare put the plug in to make sure your taxes were paid, but I want to say I was extremely pleased. Patrick and his staff were able to arrange to get Phil Donahue here, and he was able to work the crowd and get everyone engaged. And we heard from some of our newest businesses that just started to some of our older businesses. Miss Philbrick was there from Philbrick Plumbing and Heating. I think she was 54 years, Patrick?
Somewhere there.
And I think the oldest business that we had here was Cherry Carpet. And they were only able, maybe a year or two just prior to Philbrick. But we had a number of folks from all different sectors, and I just want to say to our business community, we really appreciate each and every one of you. We even got a chance to dialogue. There are a lot of businesses that are relocating in Portsmouth, and some within Portsmouth that are relocating and getting better space. One of them, Councilwoman Simmons, she spoke about her relocation. I think Stan Clark spoke about his. You know, Stan Clark just moved his law office from Court Street. He actually purchased a building right on, is it Washington and High Street? And so we just had that moment in time that we allowed at least that one moment to emphasize and brag on all of our businesses and thank them. And Patrick, I want to thank you and your staff for all of your hard work and the continued support there. You know, it was refreshing, and I'll turn it over to you, Patrick, but it was refreshing to hear from some of those small businesses thanking us for some of the things that we were doing that I wasn't recognized that we were doing. And so we're doing a lot of things here in this community with our business community, and your department and Mr. Manager, you deserve a lot of credit for what we're doing, and I thought that was a home run. So with that, sir, would you please recap or summarize or say something about our businesses and where we're going in that manner? And how long have we been doing this, by the way, Patrick?
Business Appreciation Week has been going on in the Commonwealth for quite some time. We've tried a variety of different events, from golf tournaments, to luncheons, to breakfasts, and I really think we found a winner with this evening reception where people can come and go as they please. Most of them seem to show up relatively early and stay for the duration. But the city's been honoring its existing business community for quite some time. I couldn't give you a specific year, but decade or more at least.
And the Children's Museum was a hit. I think they all enjoyed that, and to be able to us showcase some of the other assets that we have there. So I thought that was great. Now, this is what, our second year at the Children's Museum, or is our third?
First year at the Children's Museum. We want to rotate it around. We've done this at Roger Brown's in the past. We did it at the Mansion last year, the Children's Museum
I
this
know we
year.
did Maurice's place when he opened the Harley Davidson up. We did that once or twice there, right?
So the objective being to rotate it around, expose the business community to venues they might not otherwise see. I believe Ms. Perry, in addition to hosting a fantastic event, had a number of inquiries from businesses for either personal or corporate events. So it was a great opportunity for us to showcase that city asset as well, sir.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you very much. And thank you for you and your staff and what you do. And it showed the other night. Made us feel proud. And I think we applauded you and gave you the recognition there. And you, in turn, like any good leader, turned around and gave it to his staff. So thank you for everything you do, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good night. All right, Madam Clerk, is there anyone else with any comments? All right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. 13-252, report on pending items. Ms. Bernadette Hogg.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. I'm Bernadette Hogg, City Ombudsman, and would like to give you the report on the non-agenda speakers and pending items for the council meeting on May 28, 2013. There were 11 non-agenda speakers at the council meeting on May 28, 2013. 2 of the speakers required action by staff. William Conley was concerned about skateboarders damaging the handrails at High Street Landing. Repairs were made to the handrails on Wednesday, May 29, 2013. Deterrents will be installed on the handrails, which will hopefully prevent skateboarders. Staff met with Mr. Conley on Wednesday, May 29th, to discuss the maintenance of the flagpole at High Street Landing. Mr. Conley has agreed to allow the city to maintain the flagpole on behalf of the Portsmouth Flag Association. Theodore Pinnock brought forth concerns about trespassing on properties which he owns on both High Street and Queen Street. Staff from the Portsmouth Police Department viewed the areas in question on Wednesday, May 29th, and the neighborhood impact officer contacted Mr. Pinnock. While they are working on a long-term strategy, in the short term, the Portsmouth Police Department will address the problems as follows: conducting regular patrols to the areas, aggressively enforce city codes involving alcohol, littering, and trespassing. Cleanup will be conducted in the 800 to 1500 block of Queen Street by the Community Service Work Crew on June 8, 2013. Neighborhood impact officers will be supervising that cleanup. Mr. Pinnock will be posting signs on his property to prohibit trespassing and is considering removal of some of the trees and brush from the property. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
13-253, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Ms. Gloria Benjamin, and she's followed by Mr. Steve Whitehead. Oh, she's not here? Okay. Mr. Steve Whitehead?
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and staff present. I'm Steve Whitehead, and I've lived in County Street since 1949 in the West Haven section of Portsmouth. I've lived at my current address since 1971. I'm here tonight to bring to your attention a matter concerning bulk refuse pickup, particularly trees, limbs, and branches associated with tree removal from residences. The City Code Section 1635 addresses bulk refuse and describes the limitations and restrictions of the material to be removed by the city. I've called on several occasions previously concerning contractors cutting trees and leaving the debris in large sections of trees for the city to remove on the city bulk trucks. This service is afforded the homeowner as part of the city services in their normal pickup of our trash. But even that has some restrictions as spelled out in the City Code, Section 1635, and 1634C. Previously, I've called when contractors had cut trees and left the material for city trucks to remove. This process costs the taxpayers, like you and me, and allows the contractor an unfair advantage in pricing, as he does not have to pay the landfill charge per ton for the stumps, logs, and cuttings from his job. Contractors that play by the rules have higher quoted fees to the customer because of the charges he pays at the landfill. Here's a question I have and an offered solution to the problem. What can be implemented to bring a change in how we determine who did the work? I have previously been told by the city that when the contractor was contacted, he said he had someone pick it up and it wasn't the city. Well, my grandson and I have both seen the city bulk trucks pick this material up. I was told the reason the trucks looked like a city truck was because the contractor had bought old city bulk trucks. I questioned this and commented to Elizabeth Simmons previously that reminded me of an old Moody Blues song. Isn't life strange? Strange that this material always seemed to be picked up on the same days as the bulk refuse, regardless of the section of the city. The same day. Isn't life strange? So for the part where I offer an opportunity for the city to look at how this can be corrected, I say this. My concern is that we are relying on the bulk truck driver to make the decision as to whether this is the homeowner's tree or whether a contractor did his job. The driver just happens to be the lowest man in the chain, but a very important one. I believe that when he arrives at an address where there's a large pile of tree material, he could use his radio and call the office, give him the address, and go about the rest of his route. And a supervisor could come out to the address and make the determination as to whether it's a homeowner or a contractor. It would cost the taxpayers less for the supervisor to drive to the address and make a determination than the cost the taxpayers are currently footing. And I've spoken with Dennis Bagley as recently as today, and I said the same thing to him that I'm saying tonight. I've also said the same to some of the council members previously. The pictures you have is from an incident from last summer, and whether it was a contractor, which in this case it was, or a homeowner, the city code says that these trunks larger than 18 inches in diameter is the responsibility of the homeowner or the tenant to dispose of. Unfortunately, in this case, the city bulk truck picked those up. In fact, it was truck 1227. I hope by being here you can start a dialogue to address this issue. How bulk is picked up has changed several times over the years, so there can be a change. If what I've made the city aware of over the last year, only those I've seen in my neighborhood, is multiplied by the many trees sitting curbside, whether it's a contractor, the taxpayers are footing the bill to add profit to a contractor, some of which don't even have a business license in our city. They could be coming from a neighbor city and properly licensed by that city. We, the citizens, lose, and the city loses valuable dollars that can be utilized elsewhere. Thanks for your time tonight and your considerations of my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. Councilman Meeks?
Is it possible that we could...
Put your mic on.
Oh. Is it possible for John maybe letting the tree guys come in and buy a permit, or so we know, I mean, just like a building permit, they got to come in, at least let us know where it's, the work's being occurred. And I've seen this 100 times. As far as the tree guys, what they do is the trunk they leave on the street for their guys to come pick the trunk up, because they sell it, the branches they leave there for the city. And that is, I mean, we know what we're paying for $125 a ton, or going to our landfills it may be a little cheaper, but is it something we could put in place, or some type of a check and balance?
As for your question about the permit, let us study that and see if that's possible.
You want to respond to anything else? Yeah.
No, sir.
You mentioned Dennis, and they had some conversations. Are we okay?
We are.
Then, all right, thank you. Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kentrell Devon. Is she here? She's here? Did she come?
Oh, there she is. Oh. Oh, hop along.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening. How are you?
Vice Mayor, Council, Lady Randall, Lady Elizabeth, and Bishop. How is everyone doing? I want to say tonight that I'm here on behalf for unity. Unity for the city of Portsmouth. I want to be the first one to say the sheriff race is over. Bill Watson, he won. He will remain until November when a new election will come in. So congratulations to both candidates for running well and running a peaceful race. Secondly, I believe the fight at this point and the pleas and the cries are all over for the funding for the school board. So unfortunately, that is behind us unless we can come and find a new wave and try to bring it back again. But if it's over, can we finally move forward in peace? I've had time to contact several of the council members, and I told them I am a woman of my actions in the same way I ask others to walk in character and unity. I do the same. So I came up here to apologize with a broken bone in my foot to the council, the city manager, the city attorney. I don't think you was the sergeant of arms at the time, but as well as the citizens of Portsmouth, because if we as leaders do not walk in integrity, even when upset, if we go over into the extremes, we are human, but being leadership positions, you should come back and apologize. I think that is the high road, and that is when you can then turn to the youth as well as older adults and say, hey, when you make a mistake, own up to your actions, but come back and apologize. So that is what I am doing. Mr. Mood, I know you was highly offended, and believe it or not, I did not clear my chest. So that was just a little bit at the time because you tapped into my passion. And my passion is youth and those who are underdogs who need the helping hand, because I've been there and I had to survive through it. So when I can look back and save one, that is my desire. And then if I can prevent it, then I really prefer to prevent it. But this city as a whole, we have to come together in unity. And I don't know who can say something to the Virginia pilot, because Portsmouth, Virginia is not a racist city. We may have issues, but everyone else have their issues. I was so proud of Colonel Steve Carroll when he came up and he said he was displeased with what was in the newspaper. You know, that made a statement. You know, we may have issues with one particular person, two particular people, but it's not a city in the masses. Portsmouth is much larger than that. And, you know, I'm bold enough to say this. If something can be said to the Virginia pilot with the new reporter that we have, if he has to say Danny Meeks being a white man with your picture next to it, that's adding stink to the pot. We know your picture, you white. You know, that's like them saying Kentrell Devin, a black woman. You can look at me and see that. Can't you, Miss Elizabeth? Okay. So let's see what we can do. If we can rally the reporter to do better, he should be a part of us. I think he lives in Portsmouth. If not, he represents Portsmouth when he writes. So let's do something that's a little bit better than that. And I'm going home, as always, like I do. And hopefully from this day forward, since all of the heavy is behind us, let's move forward in peace. Can we do that? Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Members of council, there's no additional business to come before you this evening.
Okay. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you. Good night.